After his father King Asa passed away, his son King Jehoshaphat would assume the throne. And just like his father, Jehoshaphat meant business when it came to keeping the word of God. So much so, that the Philistines who had been beefing with the Israelites since the days of Isaac came to pay homage out of fear. 2 Chronicles 17 verses 10 to 11 says, "And the fear of the Lord fell upon all the kingdoms of the lands that were round about Judah, and they made no war against Jehoshaphat. Some of the Philistines brought Jehoshaphat presents, and silver for tribute, and the Arabs also brought him 7,700 rams and 7,700 he-goats. The king would also go on to reinforce the nation's defensive arrangements by building fortresses, organizing the army, and increasing the national reserves of Judah. He was also a peacemaker. He brought peace to the whole region by forming an alliance with King Ahab, the king of Israel. This was a political coup, considering that King Ahab was the worst ruler Israel had ever had up till then. Yet he was the first to bring an alliance between Israel and Judah since the split. Following this, King Jehoshaphat somehow was enticed into giving up an alliance with the king of Syria that his father King Asa had made. By saying "we are one people anyway," King Ahab asked King Jehoshaphat to join him in battle against the king of Syria. Fortunately, King Jehoshaphat was acute enough to consult God before making such a move. Both kings would deliberate with some 400 prophets about whether they should go to war. They all lied and declared that victory would be the outcome. But King Jehoshaphat was thorough and asked if any other prophet hadn't been heard. For once there was a truthful answer. And of all people, it was King Ahab that admitted there was a prophet called Micaiah who hadn't yet been heard. Micaiah, though, didn't like King Ahab, and this was known to him. This is because every time he had something to prophesy about King Ahab, it wasn't good. Regardless, Micaiah was brought to prophesy to both kings over the planned battle. Micaiah would prophesy not only against the battle but also against the 400 prophets. He told them that they would fail against the king of Syria and that God had allowed a lying spirit to enter all 400 prophets so as to deceive the king of Ahab. Unsurprisingly, King Ahab was furious. As he said, he saw this coming. He then ordered that Micaiah be put in prison and fed badly until he returned. Micaiah responded by making it plain before everyone that if King Ahab was to return, then he had prophesied falsely. King Ahab would never return, though, as the lone voice of Micaiah would prevail. Let's see how. After siding with the 400 prophets, both kings went to war. During the battle, King Ahab got killed and King Jehoshaphat almost had a similar fate were it not for God's intervention. You see, before the battle King Ahab disguised himself so as not to look like a king but asked Jehoshaphat to keep his threads. As the battle played out, the Syrian king told his men to keep tabs on the king of Israel, not the rank-and-file troops. Since Jehoshaphat was still in his royal garments, the Syrian soldiers mistook him for King Ahab and began to pursue him. After making his plea for sanctuary to God, the pursuing Syrian soldiers became aware that it was a case of mistaken identity and withdrew from their chase. So Jehoshaphat got away with this close shave with death. For King Jehoshaphat, it was life and back to Jerusalem, where he got a stern rebuke from God for allying himself with bad men such as Ahab and not the likes of Micaiah. But because he also put the business on the Ashros, who his grandmother had a mistaken fondness for, God saw some good from this bad behavior. Jehoshaphat then returned to civilian rule until an alliance was organized against him by the Moabites, Ammonites, and Meunites. God would make him triumph over them, bringing in a period of tranquility for his people. His oversight, though, was his failure to get rid of the places of honor given to other gods in his realm. This is because the people didn't seem to be as keen to obey God as he was. 2 Chronicles 20 verses 32 to 33. He walked in the way of Asa his father, and did not turn aside from it. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord. The high places, however, were not taken away. The people had not yet set their hearts upon the God of their fathers. A case of a good shepherd with a wayward flock. Let's now give the breakdown of his rule. Thanks to the successive rule of King Jehoshaphat and that of his dad, the nation of Judah had 66 uninterrupted years of outstanding management. This would be the first time in the history of the kings of Israel where both the reign of the father and the son would please God. A rare moment in history where both King David and King Solomon were collectively outshined by their descendants.